I'd have to put headphones on.
Yeah,
How
sure,
did
sure.
sniffing get in my comments? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Server Smash
Wait,
Bros.
is Nick
Mouthy
here?
Infidel Randomizer Debate Tournament Qualifier. That was a lot of words. And we got HeyDuck, and we've got
Yeah.
Red, and they're gonna debate about all sorts of stuff as a bunch of random topics. I don't remember them all. So, Double Star, take us away.
Sure. So the first topic is going to be A theory of time versus B theory of time. HeyDuck will be defending the A theory of time, and Red will be defending the B theory of time. You both have 15 seconds to Google the theories of time to find out what they're about and what you're defending, and then you'll begin your opening statement.
And wait, but is I'm defending B theory?
A theory of time, and Red is defending B theory. Okay, 15 seconds right now.
What's it called?
Okay, your 15 seconds are up. You can do your opening statements now.
Okay, sure.
Red, you're going first. You're defending B theory.
Okay, sure. So, HeyDuck, okay, listen. I think you're gonna run into some issues here where you're gonna rely, okay, you're gonna get carried by your subjective experiences. But, as we all know, I don't think we have reason to believe that our perception of how time functions is actually like accurate as how it actually functions. I think all states of time are equally real, and so, what we experience is just like a result of human consciousness, and not like actually like the way we experience time isn't like anything tangibly real, So go do it.
Okay, HeyDuck, your opening statement on A theory of time, defending it.
Yeah, give me A theory of time. Oh wait, fuck! I read about B theory of time.
Oh shit.
Fuck. I can't find anything about A theory of time.
Okay, so that's your opening statement. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So, do you have any objections to the B theory of time, HeyDuck? Any like problems with it?
The B theory of time. Yeah, sure. Give me a second.
Okay. That was as much time as you need,
Yeah, B theory of time. Of course, the idea that the law of time is only subjective illusion of human consciousness, and that the past, present, and future are equally real. Yeah, I just don't. I guess I don't see the value in believing that theory.
I mean, it's not about
that's like a more simple explanation that time is simply continuous existence.
I think you're not really like, because I don't know what you mean by value, right? So I don't think there has to be a value in believing the theory, right? The theory that like explains the matter is the best, is the one we should believe, right? I don't know what you mean by value.
No, I think we can believe theories within metaphysical entities based on standards, right? So we can call.
Wait, can you like talk more clearly? Sorry.
We can believe theories to be correct based on expansion, right? So, but or like based on lack of expansion value.
I actually can't hear you. Sorry. Wait.
Wait. Can we go away from the road a bit? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a bit better.
Yeah. It seems like we buy into theories about metaphysics based on explanatory value all the time, right?
Okay. So you're saying we base on its explanatory value? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, we can use explanatory value to justify beliefs or theory.
Sure.
Like we use that to justify the Big Bang theory.
Sure, I get that. But what does the A theory explain that the B theory doesn't?
That's a good question. Let me check Wikipedia real quick.
Oh, so you don't know? Is that what you're trying to say? Like you aren't aware? You came to this.
No, I'm aware.
Oh, okay. So you are aware, right? And so what doesn't it
B
explain?
theory of time. I think B theory of time as opposed to the A theory of time was different.
Okay, I know it's different. What doesn't the B theory explain?
B theory just seems to assume more. It assumes like a more complex reality. We can narrow it down to a more simple concept. If we assume a continuous existence rather than assuming a past, present, and future that all exist at the same.
Well.
No,
So I don't think that's
no.
more. I think that's only more complex because of the way you experience time. I don't think it's actually more complex like in abstract, right? I think you think it's more complex as like a more
No, I mean in the sense that like parsimony, you assume it fails quantitative parsimony, right? Because you assume, or not quantitative, qualitative parsimony, because you need to assume few things to bind into the idea that there's a continuous time stream, as opposed to the idea that there's both a past, present, and future. They are separate entities.
I mean, I don't know why you'd have to assume less for that for A, like for the A theory.
Like, well, that's just parsimony, because parsimony is.
I get what you're trying to say about like parsimony, right? But I just don't know like it's correct that you have to assume less for the A theory to be like, Sorry.
Really quick, can you explain to me a theory of time? I want to understand what your understanding of the topic is.
Okay, well,
because I'm interested. Yeah, it might clear up some confusion.
Okay, so A theory of time is like that the past, present, and future they're sequential, and that's like a fundamental property of how time works, right? They're not all equally real. The past happens, it's real. No, the present's only real. The past happened, and then the future happens, but it's not like B theorists would say that it all happened. It's not all happened. It's all equally real, and then the way we experience it is a result of our like.
Yeah. So you understand that in order to assume that my theory would have to assume few things. I just have to assume the existence of continuity, or you have to assume the existence of a.
Well, no, I don't have to assume the existence of anything, right?
And future that are separate entities.
No, I don't think they're separate. I think they're all equally real, right? The reason they're separate is the way we experience time, right? I don't think they're.
No, but your theory refers to them as separate entities, though. You understand that, right?
No, my theory doesn't separate them into separate. I mean, we separate them into separate entities, but my theory, they're all equally real, so it's not like a really meaningful.
No, they're all equally real. That doesn't mean. Wait,
no,
your theory separates them into equally real separate entities. What do you mean?
No, they're not. Okay, so because of the way we experience time, we decide to separate them into like different entities. My theory says that like the separation isn't really substantial because they're all equally real, right? The only reason we separate them is because
that doesn't address the fact that you assume pure unique entities,
No, I'm not assuming any
pure unique entities.
No. The past, present, and
more unique entities than I do.
No, the past, present, and future aren't like unique entities, right? The only reason we call it past, present, and future is because of the way we experience it, right? Like there's nothing.
No,
real.
They're unique to each other. You understand that, right?
What does that mean?
Just the fundamentally different states of existence under your theory.
No,
they aren't happening continuously.
Well, no, they're not. Yeah, they're not happening Well, yeah, they're not happening. They're not happening sequentially. They're happening sequentially, right? They're all equally real, right? The only reason I'm saying the only reason you think we're trying to break it into past, present, and future is because that's like how we meet. That's how we have these conversations, right? But I'm saying like if we think about it in the abstract, my theory doesn't separate these things, right? It's just it's us who are like.
Wait, your theory literally
no. Okay, so your theory. No, listen. Your theory is the one that assumes that the past, present, and future are all like unique ontologically, right? Mine doesn't, right? It's saying that they're all equally real, right? There's no like the present doesn't have like the present isn't any more real, right?
It assumes a continuity between these states as a single continuous entity.
Well, I mean, wait. Okay, so can you repeat that? So you're saying that I'm assuming that these states are a continuous entity, right?
These are three. These are three separate. You assume three separate entities that exist with unique properties to their own as a past, present, and future.
I don't think so. Wait, are you saying that my theory implies that, or are you saying that your theory does?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Your theory implies.
No, but I'm saying my theory doesn't imply that. I'm saying that like they're all. So I think. Okay. So I'm gonna try to like see if I'm tracking to see just like quickly. I'm gonna try to like relay what you said, right? So my understanding is that you're saying that like a B theory of time separates past, present, and futures into their own unique categories, right? And that they have like different. They're different meaningfully, but that's just not true. The B theory of time would say that they aren't like unique. Like, well, they aren't like. There's nothing unique.
Wait, it does.
No, it doesn't.
They're unique from each other.
No.
The definition is unique from each other.
Oh yeah, the definitions are unique from each other, but like in abstract, they're all equally real, right? They're not like the present
The
isn't.
fact that they're equally real. Wait, do you think the fact that they're real doesn't mean that's what I'm
I'm saying
critiquing?
the fact
The
that
fact that you
they're
assume
real
three
means that like
equally real but unique entities.
okay, no,
That is
so
that fails
time is real.
qualitative parsimony as
Wait,
opposed to believing
no,
one
no,
singular
that's
thing
false. No, that's false.
entity in its continuity.
So no, that's false. So my theory,
How is that
no,
false?
so your theory is the one that assumes that there are three unique entities and that only one is like real, right? And so my theory is saying that it's all happened, right? And then the way we experience it is like a function of our brain, right?
Wait,
It's like
I'm super interested. Do you think your theory assumes past, present, and future to be the same thing?
yeah, it's one thing. It's not like they're not meaningfully separate outside of like how we experience it, right? It's not like there's no meaningful separation between them. But your theory is saying that there is a meaningful separation between them, and so you have to justify that. So like, how would you justify that?
Wait, your theory doesn't claim that though. It claims it's equally real. It doesn't
Yeah,
three
but I'm
equally
saying,
real states. It doesn't claim they're the same state.
well,
The fact
no,
that they're equally real doesn't mean they're the same.
okay,
You're just
it's
misunderstanding your own argument. This is
the only
unbelievable. You
no,
come into
the
a
only
debate.
no,
You know
incorrect.
nothing.
Okay,
How dare you? How dare you? This
you're
is unbelievable.
I think you're kind of getting a bit heated.
You should be
over this.
ashamed.
Let's
This is what the Canadian education system does to people. Okay,
Let's take it back. Let's
it
take it
took
back.
like a perfectly fine Nigerian child and it
Okay,
turned him
wait,
into
Joe,
like
okay,
a Canadian
now
student.
you're being personal about it. Okay, so let's take it back. Let's do
Okay.
research.
Okay. So the 10 minutes are up. Okay. So now you will each do your closing statement.
Okay, well I think that in this
HeyDuck will go
debate,
first
basically-
since
yeah.
I guess HeyDuck will go.
I think
first
I
since he went
clearly
last.
demonstrated that there's a fundamental failure both of the Canadian education system and of his understanding of both B and A theory of time. But I'm claiming this entirely based on 15 seconds of research, and yet I still was able to more comprehensively explain my position and understand the theories. And I think it's a damn shame.
So I think it's pretty clear that my opponent had to resort to personal attacks because his arguments were just not up to par, right? So it just seems clear that like he was trying to like confuse the conversation instead of trying to like meaningfully advance it. And so we didn't really get anywhere. But I think any listener can like reasonably go to the conclusion that I'm right. Like I'm obviously correct here. He's just making error after error, and I just don't know how to solve all of them, right? So it's unfortunate.
Okay. So that's all. It's very good. Very entertaining. So the next topic is racial discrimination by employers is morally and/or rationally justified. Red is taking the affirmative, so yes, and HeyDuck is saying no. Okay, so Red, since you're taking the affirmative, you can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, so if we believe that like we can predict certain traits people will have by their identities or things that, or like, yeah, we can predict certain traits people will have by their identities, right? Then it's fine to use that as a heuristic for those identities. And if we're trying to like select for a certain trait and we use like an identity as a heuristic to get at the trait, right? In our hiring decisions, I don't think that's like unreasonable, right? I mean, you might say it's discrimination, but I don't think like I don't think there's anything bad about that. You know, that's basically the argument I'm gonna use. So
Okay, HeyDuck,
Yeah.
go.
It seems to me that when we talk about discrimination about these things, it seems unproductive to look at them in the sense of like how accurately these heuristics do influence do show like or indicate regarding these groups. It seems more useful to think, okay, what can we do about these issues in order to fix them? So people's lives are meaningfully better and aren't negatively affected by these heuristics. It seems like furthering discrimination based on these immutable characteristics or immutable characteristics for that matter is unproductive and would only lead to a loss of utility.
Okay, so I think the reason you think it's unfair or unproductive is because you can't. So like let's take some examples, right? Do you think it's unfair to discriminate on someone based on their educational background?
I think to some extent it
In
can be.
hiring.
I'm sure it would depend. It would depend on the. It would depend
Really?
on. I think
Okay,
that
no, no.
there's context in which it depends. You have to be more specific.
Sure, and hiring.
I
do you
mean,
think it's-
in academic work, obviously, like you could argue, in academic work, there's probably situations where like academic history matters, but like for something like a fast food job, it probably doesn't matter if somebody failed high school.
well, no, I think so. I think it does matter, right? Because even if you're like even for fast food jobs, we'd expect educated people to be more productive, right? So I think you're just being wrong here, right? Like education increases
I
productivity
need
at all skill levels, right?
well that would depend on the job, and that would depend. It seems like data isn't as clear cut as you
Well,
portray it regarding like productivity in education in every field.
okay.
Especially when we talk about stuff like low entry level jobs, it gets like very muddy because education, we also need to look at and account for people who are currently studying, who are currently in education, and how that influences the productivity.
So I think okay. What about if we're let's say we're trying to hire doctors, right? Would it be okay then to discriminate based on like characteristics? So like let's say we're trying to hire a doctor, and when you look at our applicants, right? And some applicants have like a history of like being violent, right? Or they grew up in like a violent area, right? And we see that like we predict that they'll be more violent, right? Based on that characteristic, right? Do you think it might be it's rational? Do you think at least rational? Do you think it's at least rational for us to weigh that against them in hiring?
It would depend. It would
It would depend
depend.
on what.
I think there's more factors to it. I think it would be, I'm a utilitarian, so I think it would be rational to maximize utility in a sense. And seems like on an individual level, there are probably cases that would be correct. But on a wider level, it seems that like we shouldn't necessarily accept this as it can have broader
Sure.
consequences on groups of people that reduce utility overall.
I mean, we can imagine like a society where employers can discriminate like as much as they want, right? But we have like methods to ensure a base quality standard of living for everyone, right? So we have the employer who says, "I don't want to hire black people," and we're like, okay, because let's say we don't want to hire black people because they're less intelligent or more violent, for example, and we can say, okay, fine, if you don't want that in your establishment, that's fine. If you predict that a black person will be more violent or less intelligent, and you don't want that in your establishment, that's fine. But we can still provide black people with like a education, welfare, things like that. So I don't think it's necessarily like gonna count against the utility calculus if we set up society in a proper way.
I mean, wait, can you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
So I'm saying like even if we have like widespread discrimination, right? If we have the policy tools to keep incomes high for these communities and give them access to like these services, then I think I think we can imagine a society with discrimination that still
The type of welfare state you need to have in order to be able to effectively like exclude entire groups of racial minorities from like the work labor market was still like we were still supporting them while having a thriving economy. That just seems a lot less realistic and a lot more complex. My solution are just not discriminating, implementing policies that would allow these groups and these people to like improve the stuff. Time.
So let's go to like less. So let's say we're doing we're like an acting situation, right? We're trying to get an actor, right? And we want a character to look a certain way. Would you say discrimination is fine then?
I don't know. It would depend.
You don't know? Wait, you can't. So let's say we're doing like a like documentary about like ancient.
And it's utility. I think generally speaking, it doesn't produce significant insecurity and to have like racially inaccurate casting, and it seems like it can cause insecurity to the actor getting rejected based on his race. Well, that's more significant than whatever this utility is lost. But like to do by some Aquaman being like a shade of brown darker
I mean, like, I feel. Wait, so are you saying that would be we shouldn't discriminate there? Sorry, just to be clear.
No, I don't think we should discriminate generally speaking, because it seems like there's
No,
not
but like in the case, in the
this
specific, but in the specific.
disability caused by like Aquaman being like couple shades darker, as opposed to the what's caused there as disability to the actor, who's would probably feel really shitty about being racially discriminated,
Okay,
and we
well,
know, and we have data to show that like racial discrimination makes people feel significantly worse and mentally negatively impacts their mental health.
So here's the
that
thing.
seems to
Hey, here's the perfect part of this. Okay, you don't have to tell the actor, right? You don't have to tell them that you didn't hire them because of their race, right? You just not do it in the boardroom, right? And just tell them you know for whatever reason, like you just didn't make it, right? You don't need to hurt their feelings.
I'd still say it seems like it's in these types of situations, they could reasonably reduce what happened, and the risk of disability there seems to still outweigh the whatever small utility gain by the actual matching like the shade of whatever fucking shade of white Aquaman is in the comics, or like whatever other shady superhero comic you want to talk about.
I think you're gonna run into this problem where you're trying to like you're trying to fight against like all forms of discrimination, even when it won't. Because I don't think so. Like the person getting not hired for being a certain color, right? Versus just like, them getting not hired for any other reason, right? If they don't know about the reasons for them not being hired, it won't like affect their utility, right? They'll have the same utility whether they made it, whether they didn't make it for any other reason, versus whether they did make it for being, darker. And if we accept that, right? Then it seems like in your society, we won't be able to, when it comes to acting, right? We won't be able to discriminate really in
You're
any.
kind out. You're roboting.
Oh, sorry. Am I roboting?
No, not for anyone else.
I think it's you.
I know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Am I roboting or is Red?
No,
roboting?
you're fine.
Roboting. I think you're just hearing me robot. 1 sec. Let me see. Is it good now?
Right. I don't know who's disconnecting. I can hear you fine now.
Okay. So I just said like I think we're gonna run into this problem where in your society, because like we already accept. I assume you accept that like if the actor doesn't know why they got fired, right, or why they didn't make it, right, the only loss of utility is that they didn't make it, right. And I think if we're gonna count the utility of every actor who doesn't make it, right, we're gonna run into this like problem where we can't fire people for competence reasons, right? Where you're like, sure, this actor may not.
No, that can also cause this utility. It would be. This is more.
What's the relevant difference between? What's the relevant difference between like saying you're not saying we don't want this actor because they're not like white enough versus we don't want this actor because they're too short, right? What's the meaningful difference, right? Do you think we shouldn't have that discrimination?
Like the negative effect on the medium and the media of an actor being incompetent at the job, as opposed to the actor being like having the wrong mutable characteristics, plays a more significant effect on the enjoyment of people at the show.
Let's say we want a character whose like core defining characteristic in the media is that he's tall, right? Should we be able to not discriminate against like tall people? I mean, short people with regards to like hiring actors?
I don't think that would
not, right?
Well, that would depend. Again, that would depend. You could
depend? What?
Because you could have like shorter people for the other actors as well.
Oh no! I'm talking about. So there's only one role left, okay? And you're looking at applications, right? And this character's only characteristic, right? That's like his defining characteristic is that he's the tall person, right? He's very tall, right? And so, do you think it's like fair to discriminate against short people in that situation? It seems.
I think the negative effects on mental health that can be caused to the short person can be significant enough to where it would be right to cast him.
Well, I think the problem here is that like
argue that like it can reach a level of incompetence. It's like so. It can be like so far mismatched to like win the media and cause displeasure to like wider audiences. I just don't know if that's correct. Definitely empirical question.
I guess also like some other cases. So like there's a few things, right? We can't discriminate, right? And
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to cut this short. Okay, it's time for this topic is over. Red, you can go into your closing statement. Like continue saying that.
I think there are a few. I think the problem here is that HeyDucks considerations of utility are just mismanaged, right? And also we're interfering with like the vision of artists and employers in like sorting themselves out economically. I think we can have discriminations in society while upkeeping like a good amount, like the similar levels of utility or expected utility. I don't think it's like going to be that big of a force or whatever. So yeah, HeyDuck. That's my.
Yeah, I just find that to be absurd. It seems like in terms of policy, in terms of like practical terms, the amount of economic success, planning of the welfare state, and policy changes that need to adjust in order to have that happen, as opposed to just trying to support these like groups to improve their standing and deal with these heuristics that negatively affect them. It's just more realistic and more reasonable of a path which is suggested. But I can't talk.
I'm genuinely surprised.
You get what I mean.
Red did
You understand what I mean. Did you? Are the cars too loud?
No. Okay, so the next topic is going to be Israeli settlements are justified. HeyDuck, you're taking out the pro on that. Red is taking the cons. So
okay,
you'll become HeyDuck.
Okay, yeah, sure. It seems like we have historical justification for owning the land. The Israelis have like historical justification. You can look like beyond historical context. You can look at historical record, at the Bible, at biblical text, which I take to be that empirical evidence. As for the sake of the debate, I'm an Orthodox Jew, and it seems to me like it's just very clear that there's a reason to hold valid there's valid grounds to hold that territory as belonging to God's chosen people.
Okay, wait. Oh, is that it?
Fuck. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that if we take welfare of people seriously, right? If we take seriously that we should try to improve the lives of everyone, or as much as we can, right? I think it just follows obviously that you know, the actions of the Israeli government are just unnecessary and brutal, right? And so it just seems that there are better solutions to these types of disputes over land than what we're currently seeing.
Yeah, I just don't agree with you about the valid judgment. For the sake of the debate, I'm honest, and it seems to me like there's a very clear distinction between the rest of the world and Jews, to where the extent that value the utility of Jews significantly more than the utility of the Palestinians.
Sure. I'm just confused as to why you'd value it less. Is there some characteristic? Like what is true of Palestine?
Yeah, I think what's true, what would be true of
that justifies that, right?
Name the trait. You asked me to name the trait. Basically, it seems that like both biblical, the traits I would refer to would be the biblical context and intelligence. If you look at the average intelligence for the Ashkenazi Jews, you see that they're average at somewhere between 110 and 150 and 115, which is incredibly high compared to the rest of the population. So that's one aspect.
So do you think
it seems like, let me finish my point. It seems like there's a significant distinction there that would allow us to justify bringing more utility towards them than other groups. The second would be the biblical justification. It seems like there's biblical context. You can look at biblical literature.
Okay.
So the Bible, Tanakh,
Sure.
Talmud,
So,
whatever you want, and you can see that there's text, there's history.
Yeah. Okay. We know.
Bible to justify this.
I just think it makes no, like, I think so. Is what you're saying that you value people utility based on their intelligence? Is that what you're trying to say, or is it just like just? I just want you to comment on that. Yes or no?
Within a past a certain threshold, it seems that there's a utility loss. Yeah, I'd say it's
So what
on top of the biblical background. On top of the biblical background, obviously.
Sure. Let's address the utility. So you're saying that like if you're less intelligent, your utility matters less to you, at least, right? So I'd have to ask about the implications for domestic policy, right? Of course. Why would you believe in the welfare? Like, do you believe in the welfare state? Just making sure.
I believe in the welfare state for smart Jews.
Okay, so you reach income upwards. Okay, so do you believe in public education?
I believe in biblical education. I think we should have religious schools exclusively.
Okay. Do you believe in any sort of like? Do you believe in like disability welfare, for example, for like people who are like
disability welfare? No, why would I? No, why would I care? They're retarded.
I think the problem is that like
I'm not uploading my Instagram.
Imagining your society, right? It just seems a lot more sociopathic and like against all of my brute values. I just the idea that we'd watch mentally disabled people die in the streets because of what is essentially I can't possibly imagine the reason why, right? Like it just seems so needless, right? It seems like a post hoc justification. Wait, it seems like a post hoc justification.
No, it's not post hoc. There's basis to it.
Let me finish. It seems like a post hoc justification you have for your previous stance that you held, right? So you've already believed that the Palestinians should be like annexed or treated badly, and so you want to justify that. And you look for anything, and so you have to resort to these sociopathic types of arguments that just seem.
I don't think that's correct. First, you can't prove this. I could have very naturally changed my
Sure, it might be
beliefs in the last 5 minutes. Secondly, yeah, I'm nowhere I'm verifying that. Secondly, that neither addressing my arguments or this proves what I said.
Sure.
Most Jews reach a conclusion naturally as a result of
Sure, I think the problem here is like
if you look at most Kahanists, they're taught like these values from a very young age through Bible studies, through history lessons.
Why does a biblical account matter? Like, do you think it's? Sorry, can you explain why the biblical account matters at all?
God is real and God is great. I
So
believe in God.
Wait, you think God is real? Okay,
Yeah,
beautiful.
of course.
Okay, so
Ooh.
what evidence do you think we have that he exists? For example, just
Well, when you look at the okay, you can when you look at the existence at our existence, you can look at the world. You can look at
these are pretty vague, right? You have to
give me. No, you look at the world. What? Shut up! I'm talking, retard.
Okay.
I feel really mean doing this. I'm sorry. When you look at the world, you see that we have like a very specific world. It's very well crafted, to suit the needs of the people within it.
Wait.
To the extent. Let me finish. To the extent that of our biological needs, we can get oxygens are perfect levels for us to be able to breathe and naturally interact with the world and survive. We don't. There isn't.
Sure, I get what you mean, but I'm saying like, what's more likely that just happened by chance, or that an all-powerful entity exists, right? And not to mention that this all-powerful entity, they're like the nature of their existence contradicts much of our experiences, right? I'd argue, right? But this entity exists and then creates the universe in this way. I feel like for your example, right, you're just positing more, I think, and so it just seems I don't know why
I don't think I'm positing more. What you're positing is an astronomically low.
Yeah, I think the chance of your hypothesis
as opposed to just an intention being that's the intention being we already have being intention that exists. You know this to be be a real thing. We aren't like assuming like something extraordinary here. We just assume a large scale to that.
So I think
The
the
large
reason
scale.
why the
We just
reason
assume
why
that at a
can
large
I
scale.
sorry. Yeah, the reason why I think we have less reason to believe in your hypothesis is because it contradicts much of our experiences, right? So if we imagine like God existed and he was like all powerful and he also like had our best interests in mind or was like all good at least, it just it fails to explain a lot of the bad stuff we see daily, or a lot of the bad stuff that happens daily, right? Uh, you'd expect that an all good, all powerful God wouldn't bring about this. Like, if he has the power to bring about any world into existence, right? It just seems unlikely that he'd bring about the world we live in, right?
Well, I don't think it's a intention. God, he has intention specifically like we
Yeah, do you think
do.
it's
And the word is bring it
you think
is.
it's well
I don't
intentioned?
think you can. I don't think you can measure chance in the way you perceive.
Oh no, I'm just saying. Do you
The
think?
way we can
Wait,
for the existence of like an explosion that happened to like send asteroids in the right way that would
sure.
directly
I'm
from
asking.
the
Like,
United States and the moon, and we are like fucking running in lava constantly.
I'm saying, do you think? Well, that was the case for like a lot. Like, so okay, but that's besides the point. So, do you think the God is well intentioned? Just to make sure,
The gods want
or good?
attention. I think God is good. Good, of course.
So
I don't
if he
think
has the power to
I
do,
know
if he
where
has
this argument
the
goes.
power-
This is the
yeah,
argument of evil, right?
the problem of evil, yeah, of course, yeah. But I'm saying, like, why would you?
Evil. I don't think. I think this is fundamentally. I think this fundamentally misunderstands biblical text. I don't think God holds that we holds that like all good means he should do what is best and force his will. He
So you think God?
he believes in freedom. He
Wait, I'm
believes
not
in
actually
freedom like
asking.
a
Yeah,
God fearing American, like every
of
God
course,
fearing American.
yeah. So I'm
And
asking,
he
do you think
believes
God?
that we should have the freedom, the free
Yeah.
will to hold what to do whatever we want
Okay. Do you
and
think?
be judged accordingly.
Yes, I understand. Do you think an all good person would watch a child drown? Just for like the perfect moral person. He's perfectly moral. He's the moral ideal, basically. Do you think he'd watch a
God
child drown for really?
could he could
Okay, so let's
he
say
could
okay,
if
yeah,
God because God works in mysterious ways. We
sure.
can't know.
Yeah, we can
There's
upscale this, right? So
context
let's
here
say,
that we lack fundamentally
okay, yeah,
because
I
he's
get
a
it.
larger being with a higher
Okay,
level of consciousness.
I want to scale this up a bit. So, do you think a well-intentioned person, if they had the ability to stop the Holocaust, right, just by pressing a button, right, do you think a well-intentioned being would not do that? Or they just
I
like do
think
nothing?
God works in mysterious ways.
No, I'm just asking. Wait, do you, like yes or no for the well-intentioned being, not God, just like a normal
I think it's
person?
good in the
Do you think
I
like the
know
perfect?
then yeah.
Yeah, so like let's say they're all good, but they're not all powerful, right? There's like the moral
If we
pad.
assume that we have understanding of the knowledge, yeah,
So
sure.
do you
You could assume they're more for it. I don't think that applies to God because
sure,
he
but
has
we're
context that we
no, he's
fundamentally
all
don't.
power. He's so. Wait, do you think the Holocaust was bad, or do you think any genocide in the past or atrocity was bad? Right?
Of course, genocides are bad. Genocides are bad.
Okay.
Genocides are awful, and I don't support them
Yeah.
other than the ones justified by the
Okay,
Bible
so,
and Quran. Then I support it, but that's different.
so
That's
why would
yeah.
an all good God who can bring about any world into existence bring about a world with a bad in it? Right? That just doesn't. The argument I'm making is that
Wants
it
to
fails
give
to
because
explain.
he's
It fails to explain much.
I've addressed
Wait,
it.
let me finish. I'm saying all I'm saying is that this contradiction is just one of the examples that God, like these, so God doesn't explain, or like it directly contradicts much of our
No,
experiences.
because I've addressed this
Okay.
already. If you
Okay,
want
so
to
we're gonna.
please
So
listen.
this is
Know
gonna be
that.
the end of this topic. Okay. So who is it? Had the Hey Duck. So you'll give your closing statement now.
He was the.
Yeah. So Hey Duck.
Yeah,
will
I
closing
think there was a fundamental misunderstanding displayed when you in the problem of evil of God's intention. If you look at biblical texts, you can look at the Bible, you can look at the Talmud, Tanakh, all that shit. You can see that God doesn't necessarily find maximizing good as to be the right thing. He seems to find allowing freedom and free will to be correct, and let people be judged accordingly by Him.
Okay.
That it seems like your understanding of this topic is fundamentally misunderstood, and it doesn't address my argument about about Judaism and our right to land. Also, this was very funny character play. I really like.
Okay.
I never.
I'll do my closing statement. So I think it's pretty silly to assume, right, that let's imagine if you had let's just talk to like the viewers. Okay, imagine if you were all powerful, right, and you were all you don't have to be all good, but if you wanted to be all good and you were all powerful, right, what type of world would you bring about? And it just seems that in like all conceptions, right, of what we would do if we're trying to be good, the world it wouldn't look like it is today unless we just take that bad doesn't exist, which I think we all disagree on, right? So it just seems silly, and so because of that, I think God fails to explain a lot of our experiences, and so we have reason to doubt his existence. And so from that, uh, I don't think it could be used as an argument for subjugating populations, for bringing so much harm about in the world. And also, just one last thing for the first argument for annexing, like for subjugating the Palestinians, right? I don't think it makes sense to value people based on their intelligence morally. That just seems psychopathic to me, just like on a deep intuitive level. So yeah, next or done.
Okay, so very good. So the next topic is going to be JFK did 9/11. Red, you're taking the affirmative.
Oh, okay, of course. Well, it just seems like, well, the circumstances behind his assassination are extremely suspect, right? And so we have to ask why, right? Why would this guy, who's like he's the president, like he has he has a secret service, he has like all the defense in the world, right? And he just so happens to die under suspicious circumstances, right? And so that's already suspicious, right? And then we have this other event, right? That's open to much questioning, right? It just seems absurd that, a lot of the accounts don't make sense. A lot of the footage looks faked or it looks like controlled demolition. It looks weird or funky. And I think it just it just seems implausible that these two things, right? These two extremely suspicious events in history just happen to happen, right? I think it makes more sense to assume that JFK you know, faked his death, or at least his death wasn't real, and he might not be the one that faked it, right? But it wasn't real. He lived on, right? And then he went on to uh, plan 9/11, and so
Oh,
yeah, that's
yeah. Okay. So hey, Doc, your opening statement.
Wait, this is deranged. You understand? I think this is a deranged idea. Even if I grant both conspiracy theories separately, the JFK didn't get assassinated, 9/11 was an inside job, you would still, that doesn't prove any color in value between JFK being responsible for 9/11.
Okay. So that's your argument. Oh, sorry.
It just fundamentally, it just doesn't show like a connection between these two. You fail to demonstrate any empirical background to show even a strong correlation, let alone a causal link. That's absurd.
Okay, so I think I think what you're confused about is the mechanism, right? You see these two events and you say what mechanism connects them? What connects these two events, right? And so what I'm saying is that JFK faked his death, and the reason he did that is so he could control the U.S. government from the background, right? And so he's been controlling it up until, let's say, 2015, because that's around when the people started rising up against this kind of tyranny and new world order. So it just makes sense because JFK would not let Trump get elected, right? If he was this shadow president, right? So up to that point, right? And you'll notice that 9/11 happened in that time time frame of reference, right? So if he's controlling the government for that duration of time, right? And I also believe that 9/11 was an operation by the government, right? Then it just makes sense to assume, right, that he had a hand in planning it, right? Does that make sense to you?
Okay, let's grant the JFK is currently alive, and let's grant 9/11 was an inside job. Do you understand? Do you understand? The government is a very complex system that works out.
Okay.
It works with different departments. There's different agencies that run them, and the secret president and JFK, our secret president, doesn't necessarily control everything as a result. He probably doesn't have the same access to nuclear codes that top military generals do, just because that's how presidents work. We don't have a reason to assume that just because JFK is alive, we don't work under the same structural government.
So I think that's silly because you just have no faith in humans' ability to organize, which just seems silly to me, right? Historically, humans have done great things, right? If we really put effort into it, right? And it just seems like one of those great things we could do is plan atrocities,
Not
right? We know
me.
humans are so, like for example, in Nazi Germany, right? We know that most of the population, or at least a lot of them, were not aware of the Holocaust, right? And that just seems, you'd assume that this massive genocide was happening, everyone would be aware of it, right? But they weren't, and so it seems that like lots of people, like incidents involving like a lot of people can be hidden from the public, right? That just it's not like insane to say that, right? And so this is
That
just one of the
not
incidents.
only doesn't
And I
address
argue,
the
and I'd
single
argue,
point I
wait, wait,
made.
wait, I'm not done yet. I'm not
I've
done yet.
conceded.
Hey, I'm not. Hey,
I've
hey.
conceded.
I'm not. Wait. I'm not done
But
yet.
already,
Okay? Wait.
we
I'm not
walk
done.
under the
No.
assumption they have.
Wait.
I'm not
No.
addressing the argument. Address the argument.
Wait. And the Holocaust was a much bigger event, I'd say, or at least in terms of impact or people involved, right, than 9/11. And so it just seems like it'd be much easier. Uh, we have presidents of this being stuff like this being hidden from the public in the past. Those events were bigger in scale, and so it just seems plausible that they could hide this event in particular. Do you disagree or agree?
Told you, I'm working on granting you. 9/11 is an inside job. JFK is alive.
Yeah, so
I don't
doesn't
think.
make it less silly,
I
sure,
think you're misunderstanding the structure of government on a fundamental level
No, listen,
of the American government. That you think that the president has is managing around the military.
Not the
you know,
normal
the
president, the shadow president, right? Of course, the normal president, the official
No.
the president, quote unquote.
Why would we
doesn't have
assume?
this
Do you
power,
think? Do
right?
you think it just fails quantitative parsimony? It's more parsimonious to assume that the
Sure, and
shadow
if you were-
president
if you-
walks
if you
under
were-
the
if you were
same
in Germany
structure
at the
of
time-
government that the fake president does. It's just
Sure.
like parsimonious.
Yeah, and if you were in Germany at the
No,
time, during the
a structure.
Holocaust, right? And you saw like the footage of like smokestacks. If you saw all this people being moved around, it'd just be more parsimonious to assume that nothing bad was happening, right? Just more parsimonious to assume nothing ever happens, no government conspiracy ever happens, nothing bad ever happens involving government actors, right? No, that's silly, right? Obviously, even if it's
Denying. I'm not denying the
I'm just
conspiracy.
saying, wait, so
Addressing
if
the
you were
argument.
a citizen in Nazi Germany, would you deny the existence of the Holocaust because there's no parsimonious? Like, would you do that? Would that be you? Just asking.
Absolutely. What
That
do
would
you
have been
mean?
you? So Holocaust denier HeyDuck over here, right? Denying the
have-
Holocaust.
No,
Talking to
okay,
me.
no.
right, about
No.
conspiracy theories.
Shut up. 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 Shut up.
I think Mike.
Shut up,
I think
shut up,
I think
Shut
we're
up.
just
Shut up.
exposing
Shut up.
my
Shut up.
position,
Shut
right?
up. Shut up. Shut up. But if you're a fucking citizen of Germany during World War II, you
Yeah.
have no reason to believe the Holocaust is happening. You have no access to evidence. You have no
Yeah, so
access.
you deny the Holocaust denial. Yeah, I get it. Holocaust
We
denial.
have
and
that nowadays, so it's not parsimonious to hold that the Holocaust didn't happen.
Okay.
It would be to assume that if there was an entire lack of evidence as a result of it being hidden by state.
I
You
think
understand that?
I think the problem now is that I think what you're doing now is that you're taking this narrative of history, right? They're like, oh, we're so enlightened nowadays. Those dumb people in the past, right? They just couldn't reason it out like we can, We're just so.
It's not that they couldn't reason it out. You're so dishonest. It's
dominated.
unbelievable.
It just doesn't. It's inconceivable to you that the government can keep stuff hidden now because we're just all super smart. We're uber smart people. So conspiracies.
That doesn't address my point.
Crazy.
That
okay?
doesn't address my point. I've granted you the two conspiracies separately.
Yeah.
I want you to display to me why I should hold the structure of government is so fundamentally
Okay,
different.
let's take a few
The
premises.
president would be running military operations personally and dictating them on a scale so specific that 9/11 specifically, one specific event was caused directly on order of the president. That's absurd. That's just fundamentally misunderstanding the structure of the American government.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding the structure of the shadow government, right? So it's not like JFK was like in the booth planning all the hits. He was like giving the bombs. Like he wasn't doing all that. He wasn't giving people box cutters, okay? Or like actually planning all of it, right? He just gave the orders to find some justification to invade Iraq, right? That's we could say that's the broad order, right? And the organizations beneath him took that and decided to use what they had, the tools at their disposal to
That just
climate
seems
event that would move the public consciousness.
the amount of like of
What
assumptions you
what's
have to
crazy
make
about
there,
that?
as
Oh,
opposed to
assumptions,
just
you know,
there's so many more like unreasonable assumptions you have to make,
there's nothing
which you have no
unreasonable
proof
about
for.
these
You have
assumptions.
no empirical
It's
data. You
unreasonable.
have
They just
no
seem to
empirical
listen to
data.
what
You have
they
no empirical data. You have
well, yeah.
no
Holocaust. This is
empirical
just
data.
Holocaust denial
Nothing.
mindset, right? Oh, if we don't, I didn't see the camps, so they just didn't exist, bro. Like, bro, that's all you're doing right now. It's crazy, okay? I can't imagine being
And
this
I
cut
don't
to the
deny that.
government, right? I just can't. That can't be me.
Have
You know, I like,
empirical data.
I like to
You do
review.
not have empirical data. The shadow government
I like
works
to review
fundamentally
historical
differently
events.
than the American government.
I like to review historical events through the eye of like an analyzing eye, with my mental faculties to like analyze how these situations really unfolded, right? And it seems like you're just not skeptical, like you don't want to challenge yourself to really dig into these events. But like I think if you dig into these events and you did your own research,
Yeah.
instead of accepting
It's
any
not
narrative
digging.
given to you by some big organization, like I think if you actually did your own research, you come to the conclusion that this is just pretty plausible, right? President
Need
doesn't.
to, then it should be easy for you to just drop me the links. It should be
no,
easy for you
it's
to
not,
drop
it's
me
not on the fly. So if I prepared, I'd be able to do that. But it seems unreasonable to do it on the fly, right?
show that there's like this fundamentally different structure of government that goes on behind the structure. It's not the more reasonable assumption that there's a shadow government run by a dead president that functions the same way a government is perceived.
He's not a zombie. Okay? I'm not that crazy. He's not like a zombie going around. He isn't dead. Okay. He might be injured by like a gunshot.
He isn't dead. I know. I grant you, he isn't dead. He's alive.
Yeah,
Jeff is still alive. That's
not
a
zombie. It's a real person.
That's a given. 9/11 was an inside job. Jeff is alive. I fundamentally disagree.
Let's review what we have. We have the motives, right? We have the means, right? And it just seems
you don't have the motives.
Well, no, the motive is to justify the Iraq War. That's the motive. The means is like a false flag, which is like not like an inside job, right? Does that make sense to you? And we couldn't go to Iraq before because, well, the population would just not
a motive for why certain parts of the American government might want to go to Iraq. You don't have the correlation there to show this is a military operation ran and caused as a direct result of JFK's decision.
No, so you're saying we don't have them. So the motive is pretty. So the American public before 9/11, they didn't hate Muslims that much, okay? And so it seems like they wouldn't be fine, right, with this type of government action, right, in the Middle East, right? They wouldn't be fine with that level, right, at that time. And so what you need to do is that you need to, because we have interest over this, we need to find some justification for doing it, right? Do you agree with that? That seems like a reasonable motive, right? That's a motive the government would have at the time, right?
I did not disagree with that. 9/11 was an inside job to justify going to Iraq. Sure, that doesn't show JFK is the causing lead behind it. JFK had the motivation to want to go to Iraq, and he decided to take that action.
Sure. So we have this dead president who we know had like a long history of kind of like this geopolitical mission to get Russia out of geopolitics, basically to like have this one world hegemony, right? He had his whole like presidency. That was his mission, basically, right? And so it just seems natural that if we have someone who, on one hand, right, has dedicated like most of their life to achieving this goal, right? It just seems to fall that they continue to achieve it. They continue to try to achieve it if they were still alive, right? And so if JFK was still alive, right? Why would if he was still alive? Let me ask you, because you already granted that he's still alive, right? Or it's plausible, right? Yeah. Why would he keep himself hidden?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, JFK is still alive.
If he granted, right? What else would he keep himself hidden? Like, what other reasons would he have to do that?
So he can run the global banks behind him. What do you mean?
The global bank? I mean,
global banks, yeah.
He has no background in finance.
A living
JFK's a political. He's a political. His expertise is in political operations, right? He has no financial background, so it doesn't make sense that he'd want to run the big bank. It just makes no sense, right? It makes more sense that you look for leadership positions.
Right. So,
okay. So this is now. Okay, so this is the end. Right before we go into our final topic, would you, Red, you'd like to give your closing statement?
So I think the problem here is that like HeyDuck just doesn't want to think that hard, right? And I like thinking really, really hard. And I think if we want to be rational thinkers, we have to dig into these narratives deeper than what the government force feeds us, right? And so I think when you do that, you look at the numbers, you look at the people, their motivations, the means they have. I think it just becomes just obvious that we have a shadow government doing bad things, and this shadow government is run by powerful people. in that if we consider JFK is still alive, right, the only reason he had to hide his death is to consolidate more political power, right, outside the eyes of the public. And so it just seems to naturally follow from all our priors that JFK did 9/11. Thank you.
Yeah,
Doc, your
I just
closing
find that for also, by the way, my battery is on like 3%, so I might disconnect in like the middle of the last section. My bad. Sorry. It seems like obvious to me. Given JFK is alive and 9/11 was an inside job, obviously, who cares? That's like a no-brainer. It seems absurd to assume there's like this fundamentally different structure of the shadow government that's more like insane and disorganized and like single-handedly controlled than the more simple, reasonable explanation that works the way we understand governments to work with separate entities. It's more parsimonious to assume that, simply speaking. It just seems absurd, like obviously absurd.
Okay. So now for our final topic of the debate, the rapid fire debate. It is gang raping police officers is generally morally permissible. HeyDuck, you'll be taking pro on that. Red, you'll be taking on.
Wait, are you shitposting?
No, that is the topic.
This is not going on my Instagram. Never mind. My bad. I thought like I could like share this with friends and family. Damn.
Yeah. So it's gang raping police officers is generally morally permissible once again. Okay, go ahead, HeyDuck, go.
Well, yeah, sure. It seems like obvious to me that taking the job police is like a quality which I find to be subhuman, and therefore your life is meaningfully worth less as a result. And the utility cost lost to them is not significant as a result to me, as opposed to the utility gained from the gang rapers doing this stuff. I'm gonna go to like a corner here in the forest, so people don't hear me. By the way.
Yeah. I don't really think
HeyDuck,
we
so
should consider
sorry.
utilities that come from emotions of like Schadenfreude or like the suffering of others in our calculus. And besides that, I don't think being a police officer, necessarily entails that you're like a subhuman or worthless, right? I think you'd have to tell me what about being a police officer makes you worthless, and then we can maybe get into a deeper discussion about, if that, really changes anything regarding moral worth or whatever. And then after that, we can get into discussion on what types of utility can.
I mean, it's pretty. There's not much depth to it in that sense, because I just find it as a trait intrinsically makes you lose like more consideration to a large extent, in my opinion. Not to the extent that I'd be fine with causing them misery for no reason, but I would say to the extent that like I'd be fine with like torturing them infinitely if it meant like somebody who was like normal didn't like stub his toe on a Lego piece or something, because I think that I value just to that extent the utility of an average person more than that of a police officer.
So, sure. I think my problem here is that it just seems really arbitrary, right? Like, why? You don't have a why, so I don't know how I can engage further with that, right?
All of values are arbitrary. What do you mean?
All morals are arbitrary. Sure, but like the standpoint of morality.
I mean, fundamentally, all
sure,
morals
sure.
fundamentally come to certain
See that.
values that we intrinsically hold to
Yeah,
be
but I think
like.
I think those values have to be like deeper and more plausible than police bad, right? That just seems too abstract.
No, I don't agree.
You don't agree?
I think that they come down to intuitions, and I don't think you have like some measurement there of like what's deeper and less deep on an intrinsic level. Like it's something we intrinsically value or don't based on personal preferences.
Yeah, so like I'm just gonna ask a few questions to clarify, right? How would you respond to someone whose like core ethical or moral axiom is that, like, for example, they don't value people with black hair, right? Let's say. How do you like, it just seems, first of all, I think we have good reason to believe that they're lying. Because I don't think people really, because the way at least I view morality, right, from like a psychological point of view, that just seems that people don't form their moral beliefs in that way, right? So we have good reason to believe that they're lying,
That's
right?
an assumption
also-
you're making, but you
Well,
can't
it's not an
observe that.
assumption.
That's not
Well, I'm saying,
observable.
well, no, it's not an assumption. I'm saying we have good reason. Well, I think we have good reason to believe that
You
they're lying
have.
because of previous
I'm,
because of previous investigations into how morality is discovered or how morality is how people build their sense of right and wrong, right? And so I think because of those previous investigations, we have good reason to believe that this person whose core moral value is that people with black hair
I'm
just don't
sorry.
matter.
I'm
I
gonna
think we have
need
reason
to like
believe that they're lying, right?
you source that claim. So that seems
Source?
like a very strong claim
I
to
mean,
make.
I don't have the
We can,
source
like,
on hand, but
but
we can.
that
We
we
can make
have
some-
like that we have these like this we can tell when people are lying about their internal processes. That's a very bold claim. I don't think anybody
No.
in psychology would try to make that claim.
So
That's like
no one's psychology is making that claim, but where we see how morality emerges from like community organization and trying to like govern communities, right? And then we see,
do you think it's possible for somebody
some
to
evolutionary.
be in a community where they I don't think it's unreasonable.
Sure. Look, can I just finish?
I think it's unreasonable. It seems like we find communities all the time where people
Sure, I agree. I agree with that. I'm not done yet.
Like-
You haven't let me finish.
So- certain characteristics are significant to the extent I'm describing here.
Sure, you haven't let me finish though, right? So I'm saying that like if the way we see morality, let me just see, I'm gonna give like a mechanism for like how morality comes about, right? And you're gonna if you think it's implausible, then just reject it because I don't have like the empirics on hand. But if you think it's plausible, then you can go from there. Okay? How's that sound?
I think it's plot.
If you
I
think it's
think
plausible,
it's
right?
plot.
Well, I
I
haven't given
think
it yet.
what you're describing.
I haven't described it yet. I'm just saying like I'm gonna give a mechanism, right? And if you think it's
Oh,
plausible,
okay. Yeah,
you can go
sure,
on from there,
sure.
right? So I
Yeah.
think first we have the evolutionary explanation, right, of morality, right? Where our morals are a result of like selective pressures, and like selective pressures value certain value pro-social behaviors basically. And so from that point of view, we wouldn't expect humans to have extremely antisocial forms of morality, right? Like deeply held uh, in an honest way, right? That's the first one. Do you agree or disagree
Do you
with me?
repeat that?
Repeat that. I'm saying okay. So we can see that morality is like is result of evolutionary pressure, right? And so to more pro-social behaviors, right? So
Yeah, there's biological and sociological.
sorry, give me a second.
Wait, do you think it's just evolutionary, or do you think there are sociological pressure that cause our morality to form? You there? Am I disconnecting? Yo, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I had to do something. Sorry. Can you repeat what you said?
Yeah. Do you think it's only evolutionary pressures, or do you think socioeconomic pressures come into this picture as well? Your community, the people you grew up around, your family, like the way they nurtured you, etc.
Oh yeah, of course. Your environment will have an impact on your morality. But then that just makes it even less likely that you have at least in our world, right? It just makes it less in our modern world. And I see you live in like a modern country, right? So it just that decreases the likelihood that you have this axiom even more, right? Because we aren't raised in ways that
I think
we
so.
can predict that
Because
we
we
find.
see communities all the time. You can see them online. You can see them in some places in the real world where people really fucking hate cops.
Yeah,
Where
sure.
people really divide the lives of cops. And that's not like something that's out of this world.
Sure,
It's
but
not-
like, when we interrogate those people and what they
Just
mean.
go
by
to Twitter and see that to be a real
Sure.
thing. Oh,
But when we interrogate these people on what makes these cops not morally worthy, right? It's usually an action that they commit, right? Or a behavior. Oh, I think his battery died. Rip. Well, that's unfortunate.
Running
Full
away from
concession.
debate. Is that the end of the debate?
Debate one, exactly. True. I'm gonna take that
Yeah.
dub. Okay, easy dub.
Yeah, I think that's obviously concession.
Okay, that was. Ooh, that was a doozy. Okay.
Damn.
Wow.
Well,
If that's a full concession, do the judges need to meet in another room?
Well, we would
Yes.
have to.
Yeah.
Just not for that topic, because there was the full concession, right?
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Pretty
true.
much.
Okay. Well,
So should I leave, or how's that gonna work?
Yeah, get the fuck out,
Okay, damn. Okay, see
you
ya.
piece
Yeah.
of shit.
Yeah.
Okay. On most of those topics, I think that it was sort of a red blowout. The one that I think that maybe HeyDuck took the lead on would be the probably the settlements one. HeyDuck actually didn't do too bad on that one. But overall, I'd probably give it to Red.
I'd give it to Red. I think the problem of evil argument. I think that HeyDuck started out well on the Israeli settlements.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
That wasn't the best part, right?
Yeah, the problem of evil part. But I think still he did like well enough on the first part that I think I'd give that round to him on the Israeli settlement one. And then like I think a few were kind of like close or whatever just because of the way it ended up. Like I think the first one, right, wasn't super clear. I think Red like pretty clearly won the discrimination one and the JFK one. So yeah, I think I'd give to Red overall.
What's weird? The weirdest part to me is like every single one of the crazy topics that I thought Red could like spin into something easier. Red just didn't, right? Red just took the crazy version and argued in favor of it, and that was a. I know, kind of Giga Chad, but I wouldn't have.
Yeah,
done
it was
that.
a Giga Chad moment. Giga Chad moment.
Synth is like, I would never argue in favor of JFK shadow president.
Yeah, I would never.
bad.
Yeah, I would never
crazy.
argue. I would never argue in favor of it being morally permissible to gang rape police officers.
Well, I certainly wouldn't.
That's a bit of a wacky topic.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any way that you could spin that one, Synth?
I told Double Star the 3 ways that I thought were possible. One is accelerationism, right? Maybe there's some route there, and maybe some increases in familiarity with victimization if the police officers have experienced it firsthand, and maybe if I like dug through like Google really fast, pulling up some random ass stat about how rape victims show a higher or increases in empathy or something.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, that's those are all
Yeah.
routes, I guess. 2 of those would just be taking the crazy pill, but
Yeah. I think it is a crazy ass position. I couldn't think of any way to spin that one into like here's a way you can interpret the topic that's gonna give you some wiggle room. Because it was pretty explicit that it has to be generally morally permissible.
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty rough. That's a rough topic.
Yeah, it's rough. Imagine like the type of person who would come up with that and suggest it for a debate.
Yeah, what kind of
The
piece of
person
shit would do that?
something. Yeah.
What kind of terrible?
No clue.
Yeah,
No
I
idea.
can
That would
imagine.
be fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you want to?
Yeah, we can.
I guess we can declare the winner. You want to bring Red and HeyDuck back in?
Yes. At Red. At.
They're running from the debate.
Yeah.
Also, really quickly, I just gotta add, Moxie, what the fuck? Why do you think you can debate? This is a tournament. You can't just jump into random people's tournament, Moxie.
Yeah,
That's
bro.
not how fucking tournaments work.
Yeah. What?
I liked that Synth is also running away from the debate after declaiming.
I clicked the wrong button. I right-clicked Red and then clicked call instead of ring, which apparently is a different thing.
Well,
Whoa.
HeyDuck is back online, so yeah, okay, ring him.
Okay.
They're both being ringed.
You're being ringed.
Get back in the ring.
Back in here. Can't stay out of here. You can't do that.
It would really suck if it was like a HeyDuck blowout and that thumbnail's the way it is. Red is running away.
Red ran away.
I shouldn't say that.
You know what? They don't need to be back in. We can just declare it, and then Phoenix, you can do whatever kind of stream outro you want. I think we all agree. Red's the winner. Is that right?
Yes.
Congrats, Red.
Yeah.
We'll be advancing
So you be
into
rapid
the final tournament, representing the Mouthy server and the randomizer. Congrats.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. It was a thing. Congrats. We'll have another episode. The next tournament. Double Star. When are we doing the next tournament for the Mouthy server?
I need to talk to Bra Machine, and it's probably going to be like some like Michael Moreno and Omni or something like that.
And that means if you people on the YouTube want to see that, you have to click subscribe and also click that notification bell and set it to all notifications. Otherwise, you'll just never get to see it.
That's true. That's true. It will never show up in your feed. That would be bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Signing off.